Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
This is TJ Morris, and you're listening to ACO Radio, and I am TJ Morris ET Radio, live on the air tonight with Dr. Bruce Cornett and Thomas Sinisi Hawksblood, and or Thomas Hawksblood Sinisi. I get it right in a minute. And we had set this up for our ACO Club tonight for those joining us, and if you'd like to join us, go to patreon.com/join/Teresa J. Morris, and you can choose what club you'd like to join. We're doing it that way these days for ACO, UFO, and our new one, ACAR. So welcome aboard. We appreciate all of you that have listened to us going on 8 years now, since June 2012. And I am doing my best to keep all our people in free social media out there, understanding the difference with Creative Commons license, and they've all got YouTubes and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and how all that works to help you if you are a sole author or an entrepreneur or a speaker, or you go to events and would like us to help you get the word out. So that's what we do. And Tommy Hawksblood's been with me since the inception, the very first one for our ACO Ascension Center organization, and was a director for many years with my husband and myself and Janet Carolison and Dr. Alexander Sashalison. And in 2020, we invited, I need to mention Ken R. Johnston and Thomas I'll remember here in a minute. Thomas R. Becker. And Thomas R. Becker is our GM for ACO Radio, meaning American Communications Online, and he started a department called Allied Command Internet Radio with me and others, and we're going to run this as the ACO Association, articles and bylaws. So got all that red tape out of the way, so let me get on. I need to call someone because we don't usually do him on Friday night, and that is Jan Aldrich, our ufologist with UFO Association. But I've got to look up his phone number. And then Ronnie Dawson called in on our Tuesday show. We have a 3 to 5 Tuesday show. And I guess he'll show up tonight because they said they would, but I didn't send him anything. So Bruce Cornett has volunteered, thank God, to help me tonight. And then Tommy's going to go back into his spiritual world on Wednesdays with me, and he does a show Tuesday for UFO Association, Tina and Russ Kellett in the UK. And he's been doing live shows, but we're going to let him and Bruce get on here. But let me get Bruce on here to introduce himself, and then we'll get Tommy. Dr. Bruce Cornett, is that you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Hello?
We're live and on the air. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. Okay, well, we're live and on the air, and this is our first recording tonight with you, and I will be able to call in Dr. Jan Aldrich later. But tell everybody who you are, and then I'm going to let Tommy, so we'll just get the introductions out of the way first. So go ahead and introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Okay. I have about 13 years of college education, 3 degrees in biology, geology, paleobotany, and palynology. And I've worked in the oil industry for about 11 years or more. And I've also worked at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, a division of Columbia University, drilling and analyzing rock cores from the Newark Basin in New Jersey between 1990 and 1993. And it was in that period of time that I was introduced to the TV show called Intruders, and I was rather surprised to find that this subject about alien abductions was on prime television, because being a scientist and working at an institution, we rarely ever discussed aliens or UFOs, etc. And I went to the bookstore and got a copy of the book Intruders by Bud Hopkins and John Mack, and the book manager suggested that I also get another book called Silent Invasion by Ellen Crystal. I was shocked when I read that book that it was about the area I lived in at the time in Middletown, New York, and her area, fieldwork area, extended from Middletown all the way up to Pine Bush, New York. And I got in contact with her, and she invited me out into the field with her, and I was shocked by what I saw. The first couple times I went out into the field with her, I saw things flying around at night that I could not explain, and nobody had ever prepared me for this. As a consequence, I decided to do a detailed scientific investigation into this phenomenon, taking photographs, time exposures, and video of these craft that were flying around and disappearing into the neighboring farm fields and coming up above tree rows and flying over us. This was not an airport. It wasn't anywhere near an airport. And these craft seemed to defy gravity and could stop, hover, and accelerate to incredible speeds. So what was this stuff doing in a rural area of New York, right near in between Pine Bush, Walden, Wallkill, and Montgomery, New York? As a consequence, I started a 24 square mile magnetic survey with a proton magnetometer in order to test Ellen Crystal's theory in her book that there's an underground alien base. And it took me about 3 years to complete. As a consequence of that mapping, I discovered many underground features and even discovered underground transmitting arrays sending signals out into space. Who would ever believe that? Nor would anybody believe that there are nuclear-powered ancient ships, alien probes, embedded in rock in the basin that had landed on Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. And I discovered those as well. And I'm going to be giving talks at the UFO mega conference in Laughlin in February, in less than a month from now, and it'd be based on the information in my book, Unconventional Aerial Phenomena, in the Hudson and Wachusett River Valley of New York. So that's why I'm involved in this at this particular time.
Great. Now stand by and let me see if I can get. I'm going to see if I can get Jan on here, and then ask him to hold on while we get Tommy on here. But I just want to make sure I can call him because he's used to me calling him on the show. I wonder if he's going to be able to hear me. Let's see if this is going to work. Oh, wait, I did it. I didn't do it. Let's see. How did I do this? I've got 2 cell phones, a phone, a studio phone, and let's see. It says that it's ringing, right?
Right, I hear it ringing. And where did you live, in Connecticut?
Hello? Yes. Hi, Jan's sister. This is the ACO Club Live on the Air. Is Jan around? He said he would come, or like to come on Friday night's show, and we're live and on the air now.
Okay, Jan, do you want to get on the show? Okay, he's coming. It might take him a second or two.
Okay. Well, great. I didn't know if he remembered, or we talked about it Wednesday on the day show to help us start tonight's club with Dr. Cornett and other people. Okay. Well, that'll be.
Yeah, he's coming on his way. He may have slipped his mind.
It's Susan, right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Susan. You do as much radio just about as he does. Well, we'll have to get you to come on and talk about one of your groups.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Hi, Jan. This is Bruce Cornett talking.
How do you do?
Fine. Are you in Connecticut?
Yes, I am.
What part of Connecticut?
Northeast.
Northeast, up near Storrs, Connecticut, University of Connecticut?
Close to the Rhode Island border.
Oh, much even closer to that, huh? Because I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, and went to UConn.
Yeah, I mean Canterbury, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. I got it. Very good.
Okay. Bruce, let's let Jan. Tommy's here too, and Tommy's rather long-winded, but he's been with me for years, so Tommy's on. But stand by, Tommy, because you and I are old hands at this. Jan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for Friday night's club, because you and I have been doing Tuesday day club. So tell everybody, if you don't mind, giving them your little introduction about who you are and your background, and then me and Tommy will fill in, and then we'll start a conversation if you don't mind.
Okay. So I've been stealing from the government for about 50 years now. First in the Army, and then 25 years in the post office. So my time in the Army was involved with meteorology for about 16 years, and then security and intelligence, and personnel and safety. Since I was in junior high, which is back in about 56, that's when I got an inkling about what UFOs were about that time, because I saw ball lightning. Investigating ball lightning led me to UFOs, and so almost 60 years later, I've completed about 60 years of collecting information and trying to sort it out in various ways. One of the things I did when I left the Army, I started what was called Project 1947. It's an investigation into the early days of UFOs from the turn of the century up to about 1965. And that continues to this day. We've had help from over 300 people around the world collecting various accounts and exchanging information. So.
Okay, let me let Tommy introduce himself, and then we'll get started. Tommy, can you hear me, Tommy?
Yes, I hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, good. We've got good reception tonight from Hawaii. Sometimes we don't, but great, Tommy. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'm going to go on mute, and then we'll turn it back over to Bruce.
All right, Tommy Hawksblood here. I'm sure most of you know who I am, but I'm on the Big Island of Hawaii. I just want to say there's so much stuff going on in Hawaii over the past 6 months with UFOs and everything else. I've been trying to keep up with it all, but there's things happening with friends of mine in California which should open the door to what aliens are and what races are here and stuff real soon. But there's a time frame that it's all going to happen, and it's not right now. I mean, everybody wants disclosure. I don't look disclosure the same way most people do, because true disclosure means seeing an alien and everybody sees it, and then they'll realize that there's such a thing. I mean, right now they're still fighting whether it's a government ship, Russian ship, Chinese ship, where the ship came from. Is it us from the future? Is it us from the past? Rather than what kind of races are really coming here and what they're doing. So, I mean, I'm way ahead of a lot of things going on with that. I hope to bring some information out real soon. It all depends on a few people I'm working with. A lot of people I know have been being arrested and put in jail because of the information that they have or they wanted to put out there. So it's kind of hard. People that tell stories can get to talk as long as they want, but people that have the truth, it's really hard for them to get it out there, because the Navy just released 2 statements yesterday, but the main one says they will not release any UFO information because it would hurt the United States. So that's their stand on disclosure. So if people think the Navy is going to come out and admit to it, they're asking everybody to send them all their information, but they're not going to come out and say what it means and what it entails too. So I want you to keep up on the information coming out. There's truth coming out here and there, and you have to piece it together. But this whole thing about disclosure and what the government's really doing is coming out in a real shady way. So, I mean, for them to beg everybody to send them information about what they store, when, where, how, and all that, and then not to come out to release it, there's something going on with that. One last thing, a friend of mine and I lectured for the Thunderbirds years ago, and we lectured for about 400 people. And I'd say at least 100 of them all had a story to tell about UFOs that came up to their ships and their planes that they were driving. So, I mean, it's not like it's new. It's not like people don't know about it. It's just a fear that people that do see it are threatened and are forced to keep it quiet. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people coming out now, and we need to come out. But we need to bring the most important truth that we do have that can help people out. And I feel that's my mission in life right now. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm on 5th book. I wrote a book, How to See a UFO, Field Manual. I'm giving it away as a PDF file if anybody's interested. Please get in touch with us. But other than that, I'll hand it back over to you, TJ.
Thank you, Tommy. I was on mute. Now, folks, in order to keep the background sounds out, I'll ask all of you, if you're on your phones, to mute if you can when you're not speaking. And then I'm going to mute you when you're not on, just so we have a really clear recording that goes up for YouTube listeners. And I've got one other person here I'm expecting. Let me see. Is this Ronnie? Hi. Can you hear me? Hello? Who's calling in? Can you hear me? There's someone else here. Can you hear me? Is this Ronnie Dawson?
This
yeah,
is
can you hear?
Yes.
Oh, Ronnie Dawson.
Yes.
Good, Ronnie. Okay, Ronnie, I always have a hard time hearing you in the beginning. So if you don't mind, Ronnie, we've got the ACO Club going tonight, but everybody doesn't know each other. Plus, we have the listening audience because this is a live show. Would you please introduce yourself, and then we're going to do a roundtable discussion with Dr. Bruce Cornett, Jan Aldrich, Tommy Hawksblood of Hawaii. And I understand now, Ronnie, are you in Texas?
Yes, I'm in North Central Texas. I'm a UFO experiencer and alien contactee. Had a CE5 event where I actually made contact and had a conversation with the ETs. So, and this has been going on for several years.
Right?
So, but finally, they instead of scaring me, yes. And so they finally had a conversation with me after scaring me for years. So, and it was so I found out a lot about them first, up close and personal. Like I was 12 inches from this alien space when we were having these conversations. So.
You're breaking up a little bit, but now let me let Jan Aldrich
I know, they kind of showed came from and everything, so and they show me how
breaking up a little bit. Are you at your house in Texas? Are you on the road?
When you want me to talk?
I think we have we may have a delay. I'm not sure. All right.
I'm at the house here.
Okay. Well, I don't know why we have some blank spots, but hold on. Jan Aldrich, do you have any questions? And then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bruce. But Jan, you have any questions for Ronnie?
No. Let's go on.
Okay, Dr. Bruce, how would you like to move forward? Tommy and I are used to working together, so right now, and let's just let you guys get to know each other, Bruce and Jan and Ronnie, and Tommy and I will sit here and hold the fort down for a little while. And so if each one of y'all want to talk a few minutes and ask each other questions just to get the ball rolling, this will be a panel discussion about, I guess we'll start with ufology tonight. So I'm going to go on mute. So, Jan, if you'd like to discuss what you believe a ufologist is, and then Dr. Bruce, and then Ronnie is written a book, but I'm sure Bruce looked him up for us in our club, so Bruce can ask him some questions. So, okay, so Jan doesn't have any questions, right, Jan? But
right, yeah.
All right, but I'm going to leave you on with Dr. Bruce, and I'm going to mute. So Tommy and I will be in the background for everybody because I've got to try to make sure we get the best sound for Ronnie. All right, I'm going to go on mute, and Dr. Bruce, you've got the floor, and Jan is there for support as a ufologist. But let Jan tell you what he believes a ufologist is versus an alien. We have Alien Contact Organization, which Ronnie can express as a contactee. So we have different people with different backgrounds. All right, I'm going to go on mute, and we're going to see how Dr. Bruce and Jan can do with Ronnie. I'm muting. Go ahead.
Hello, Jan.
Yes,
could you, I'm aware of your interest in the Roswell crash, correct? You have studied that quite a bit?
No. In fact, that's the one thing I've avoided studying. The whole idea of Project 47 is it started right in the middle of what could we say, Roswell mania.
Okay.
And what I was attempting to do was to collect some of the material from the huge flap in 1947, which I don't think most people appreciate how many incidents took place, and since there were still people alive that had experienced them. It was possible to collect some first-hand accounts, but mostly it was newspapers and what had ever been collected before. The flap was a huge number of various incidents that demonstrated that UFOs don't evolve. In 1947, almost everything that we associate with UFOs was there, except maybe abductions. But I think there were such things that they were just in the background. But car stallings, people being physically injured, physical events which left traces, satellite object cases where it seemed that a large UFO would release smaller objects, which is really kind of a real unusual phenomenon. It's kind of rare, but in 1947 it wasn't. It's almost like the French wave. A lot of these types of cases, even starting before Arnold in the early spring. So there is no evolution in ufology. Everything was encountered in the very early days there, and I know I have one skeptic that keeps writing me and telling me, no, I'm wrong. It's a plastic phenomena. It changes over the years, and I keep telling him, no, you just have to look at the early days, and you find out that that's not true. It's been pretty consistent all the way through from the 1947 on.
How far back do you find a triangular or angular craft as opposed to circular craft?
No. I mean, these things are involved in 1947. They're not as involved as what seems to be happening today.
Okay.
But there were triangular craft in 1947. The problem was that the newspapers said flying discs, and you talk about flying discs, and then you find out that what they're talking about is a square object being seen by people, and the newspapers are referring to it as a flying disc. It's kind of funny. So there's some. If you just read the surface, you're surprised like that.
Right.
Now there are triangular craft. There were hexagonal. Some were lens shaped. Then some were say cup shape or
egg shape,
egg shape, elliptical. All these things occurred, and then there's some rarer things. But like I said, it's pretty much you can find anything that was in like 1957 in 1947 or 1967 or 1977 and so on and so on. Back in 47. This involved screening about 4,000 newspapers in North America, and then about another 400 or 500 overseas. The North American newspapers at the time in 1947, there were 11 11,000 of them in North America. So haven't even completed a majority of newspapers available at that time.
I took an interest in looked at newspapers in different counties in the Northeast, and saw quite a few articles about sightings. So I agree that there was a tremendous number of reports being published on at that time.
Yes, and of course we had the official investigation, which nominally supposedly has 122 cases, compared to about 3,000. That's just a drop in the bucket.
Right.
And of course, from 122 cases, you can't make as much accurate statements. You can't have as many accurate statements as when you have 3,000 to look at.
Right. And I have been very interested in the reports that have come out by Costa, Cheryl Costa, who wrote a book about the desktop reference book that she and her partner wrote all the way across the United States, and they documented a tremendous number of sightings in the last 3 decades all around the country. So, and one of the things that has fascinated me is the increase in the number of sightings of triangular craft. And I worked at NIDS in Las Vegas for about 4 months back in 2004, when they were compiling results of a number of local or sightings reporting centers around the world, and especially in this country, MUFON and NIDS and New Fork, all contributed to a study of triangular craft, and this was published in one of the NIDS publications before that institution shut down. And one of the things that I saw in the data was an extraordinary increase in the number of sightings starting from 1989-1990 with the Belgium flap, and increasing exponentially in the year around 2000, and it continued to increase. But disc-shaped craft and circular craft, sightings of them have been rather sparse, and I'm just curious as to why this transition has happened.
Yeah, that is interesting. Also, it seems that close encounter cases have sort of fallen off the last 2, maybe 2.5 decades. Especially since the millennia changed. There seems to be a falling off of close approaches where, say, 66, 67, there was a massive number of this close approaches. It's hard to figure out exactly why. I've been working with the CUFOS files. I've been scanning them, put them on, digitizing them so they can. We can carry around our filing cabinets on a thumb drive, so we have portability of a large amount of data, and this has led to certain things, just like the fall off of close encounters, more triangular shaped objects. Although there were always triangular shaped objects here in Connecticut, following in the early '60s. There were a number of them in Connecticut. Maybe not triangular. I mean, some people said, well, they're close to the Mercury capsule. They look like the Mercury capsule, or things like that. It's all of this stuff is puzzling. It's like Amy Michelle said. There are no laws of ufology. Every time you try to say, well, this thing happens or doesn't happen, it does.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm just curious as to what the attitudes are in your area of the country right now. Do you talk very much with other people about this subject?
Yes, but since my emphasis is on historical, most people want to know what's up to the minute. So
right.
So I'm a degreed historian, so I am more interested, like I said, Project 1947 in the early days, and of course Michael Swords and Robert Powell, and some other of us, about 10 altogether. We wrote UFOs in Government, which is a scholarly historical inquiry into official government interactions and reactions to the UFO phenomenon. So, and it's been quite well received. It was recommended, as a matter of fact, for acquisition by college and university libraries. So, because of that, there's a lot of academics that have been exposed to a more, let's put it, scholarly inquiry into the history of the government reaction to UFOs.
Since I've spent a lot of time in academia, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this show, my involvement in this subject didn't really begin until 1992, and I was really shocked by how much information was available to the public, while in the halls of academia, I rarely ever heard them mention the word UFO. And yet, are you familiar with this new book that's out by Dr. Pazulka called American Cosmic?
Yes, I've scanned through it. It's interesting. When McDonald was interested in UFOs, at the time I was working at MIT, so I had access to their library and their libraries, and there are let's put it this way, maybe not discussions, but descriptions of UFOs in a lot of scholarly journals, and I'm not talking about pre-1947, but up there. And what I was doing while I was there is going through and seeing if I could come up with some references, and then anything I couldn't find at MIT, I sent on to McDonald, and he had people at other universities could try to look these things up. I remember we had two stubborn ones that were hard to find, one in Italy and one in the Netherlands, and they were both from 1954. I don't know if he ever found them, But it is interesting, and there just seem to be more or less hidden. I mean, the interest didn't appear to be. There didn't appear to be a lot of interest in academia.
But the reason I brought up Pazolka's book is that what she describes is almost an awakening within her university and other universities, and more people interested in the subject and talking about it, even though it might fall under Alan Hynek's Invisible College category, where there's not as much of a stigma anymore about talking about this subject.
Right. The University of New Mexico wants to acquire. In fact, they told me they're not afraid of a lot of data, which we have a lot of data. Like Hynek said, we have an embarrassment of riches. We have so much data. So they've been saying, the amount of data doesn't scare us. We're starting a huge archives down here, and we can absorb huge amounts of UFO data. So they've indicated the head, like the dean and president have indicated they want to acquire this anything they can for their new archives. So that's hopeful. That's hopeful because a lot of UFO collections end up in, when the person dies, they end up in the dump.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's really sad. I know that a number of people in the field who are actively pursuing acquisition of books and data for their files in order to preserve them. What university in New Mexico is dealing with this archive?
It is the University of New Mexico.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, we have a small group of historians that have been collecting this material. So I have Robert Todd's files. I have Dr. Willie Smith's files. An Englishman named Andy Roberts. I have his files. And that also, we're trying to get that digitized. So I have what I call my digital filing cabinet here, and I can walk around with it in my pocket because it's on a thumb drive, and
right.
It involves more than 10,000, way more than 10,000 cases.
Well, how do I get
and that's
Ronnie
just
Dawson
the start. That's just
here?
the start. I have huge amounts of filing cabinets and boxes full of material that has to be scanned.
Wow.
Well,
Jan
and Bruce, how are we going to get this going tonight? Because Ronnie is in the new. Are we going to do it by years or by classification? I don't know. Are we going to, in our club, because this is a brand new club in 2020, are we all going to do it by time frames like has been done in the past based on the history timeline? Because I guess we need to figure out how to run this club because Ronnie is here, and he wrote a book, and Dr. Bruce, you found something on him, but I want to know how much information because I can't see Ronnie's phone number because he called in on Skype, and it just shows one. So we've got to decide who wants to be public with their story, and so you two guys have been doing this for years. I was an investigator, but everything I kept was confidential. Or for eyes only or need-to-know bases are in the government. So Tommy's been helping interview people with Tina on Tuesdays with the UFO Association we set up last year in the UK. And, of course, he's been helping me with since 2012 just on various topics, and paranormal and spiritual. but I want to help all these people. And Ronnie Dawson did join our ACO club for at least getting started, and I think he has a book. But how are we going to do this? Are we going to offer their books? Are we going to also archive? But Ronnie's here too, and I know he's listening. He's done a good job of keeping himself on mute. But we've got an hour and 15 minutes here, and me and Tommy are used to this, and we know we're making a live recording. But this is for oral history. But how are we all going to do this? Because Tommy can, put you on television if you want to be, and has shows, and then I do shows. But Ronnie's here to participate, but I don't know that how we can do this with you two, because you two are collegiate academics and real intelligent. Been doing this for probably, I know Jan's been doing it for many, many years, and apparently you have too, Dr. Bruce. And Dr. Maccabee told us we could do ACO as Alien Contact Org. So I guess we need to set up like our own Heineck. Do we want to use CE5 and then add to it? So can we discuss how you two are going to do, Ronnie?
TJ, Ronnie seems to be one of the newest members. I mean, I've been out in the field observing craft with Tommy in New York way back in 1996. So we go back at least that far together, and I'm interested in what Ronnie has brought forth by his book. I have not gotten his book yet. I only found out about it today, and I'd love to have him explain what happened to him and how he says in the abstract of his book that activity has been continuing from 2010 on. And I believe his book came out in 2016. And I would like to know more about that, because that brings us up to a current level of activity. And Tommy has been saying that a lot of sightings have been occurring in Hawaii, and get a little bit more information on that too. Okay? Hello?
Sounds good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Ronnie?
Okay, yeah.
Is that you?
I dumped my Wi-Fi, and I'm going through my cell phone now, hoping to get a better signal. Yeah, this is Ronnie Dawson.
Yes, Ronnie. I would love to hear more about your story, about your book, and might help improve your sales. So you said that you were in the oil business at the time?
Yes, I'm a crude oil transport driver, and like I said, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything for 30 years out there. And in 2009, I started seeing some stuff, and it just kept getting weirder. And I started seeing the UFO craft, and I've got some pictures of it. And I had a UFO mothership fly over me. I got a 15-second video clip of the left half of a V-shaped mothership that flew right over the top of my head.
Wow!
And I mean, I seen this thing up close and personal. It was just outside Coleman, Texas.
Coleman, Texas. Yes.
Yeah.
My background is in the oil business too, from '77 all the way up into around 2000. And I was abducted in front of my entire drill crew down in Virginia in 1981, and I have a whole website on that abduction. I was found missing by my drill crew, and then they saw me being returned. That was my first indication that something very strange was going on, because they had given me screen memories, and I had no idea that I was actually taken aboard their ship. Have you experienced an abduction?
I've got to say this real quick, because, folks, I want you to hear this. What does oil have to do with Project 1947, Jan Aldrich, and Dr. Bruce? But I just found out recently on Jan's show on Tuesdays that I was talking about in Oklahoma, and these ETs were talking to each other, and it was on an oil site. So I'm starting to wonder about this oil stuff, but I'm going to go back on mute. But Tommy, you're being really good because Tommy and I can talk for 2 hours easy. But just occasionally let Tommy make a comment, Bruce. But I'm going to go back on mute. But there's something about ESP and me in Oklahoma and oil, just like with you guys. But my story can come way later. So I'm going to go back on mute.
Okay. Okay, Ronnie. Did you hear my question? Yeah. Have you been abducted?
I have the way it was an abduction, but it was a non-typical abduction. What they did, they grabbed my living spirit or essence or whatever, life essence or whatever it is, and they pulled me out of my sleeping body for a conversation. And my wife walked through the bedroom several times during this conversation, and I asked them to show me how they got here because I'd always heard if you ever get a chance to talk to them, ask them how they got here. And I asked them how they got here, and I asked them if they could show me. And they instructed me to walk through the wall. And when I did, I fell into outer space right off of one of their planets in a solar system, God only knows where. And you could see it was close to a galactic center because I could see a black hole with all the stars being sucked into it in their sky. And their sky looks a lot like ours. Their planet looked smaller than ours. It had a quick rotation. Had 3 major continents, thin oceans. I mean, I was in outer space looking at this thing, and when I look back at where I came from, it was a black box. It's the same. You've seen the U.S. military jet that filmed the gun camera filmed the black box flying by it. I've been in one of those. That's a Stargate. That's what the ET uses to get here. And they said, and not only is it a Stargate, it's a biocontainment mechanism. It keeps from contaminating our world and our world from contaminating theirs. And that's what that's what they told me. And you see it fly right by the jet. I think it's off the coast of Florida. The jet filmed it, and I was like, yeah, I know exactly what that is, man. Yeah. But I'm surprised the government's never asked me about it, And I heard you guys talking earlier. The thing is, after I seen the big UFO and I've got the footage, I contacted several universities. Nobody's interested. I contacted every media. I contacted CNN. I contacted TNT. I contacted Fox News. Nobody wanted to cover my story. Nobody even got back with me. So back in the 40s, if you reported something like that, yeah, it would be a major story. But now I reported my UFO site, and they never even give me the courtesy call back. And that's the reason you don't hear a lot of this. You don't hear a lot of the new encounters like mine. You hear the old ones because back then it was different. Newsmen back then were interested in stuff like that. Newsmen would take the time to cover it. And newsmen back then had a lot more credibility than the guys do now. Back then, if you didn't report the truth, man, you'd be fired. You'd be run out on a rail, So, I believe what the guys were writing back then, and Roswell, they're taking people out there right now. I'm going out to Roswell this year. I'll be at the Roswell UFO Festival. I was there 2 years ago, and there's an impact crater out there. And, and everybody's sitting there thinking, well, think about how fast that weather balloon was going when it hit the ground to make an impact crater. It wasn't a weather balloon, It's quite obvious.
You said a black box. Could you explain that to the audience a little bit better, what you mean? Was it a rectangular black box that was levitating in the air?
It was when they had me, they had put the thing over my bedroom of my house. They pulled me out of my sleeping body for a conversation. And then during the conversation, I asked them if they could show me where they came from, how they got here. And they instructed me to walk through the wall because you could move through physical matter there. It's like you had a little mass, but you didn't have a whole lot of mass. You could sit on a bed and feel the softness of the bed, or you could walk through the bed like you're wading through a pond of water. And they showed me that we're safe from biological contamination here. We're safe from physical harm. And this is where the people of our world will eventually meet the people of their world who are demanding them to have a conversation with us.
Was this in your spiritual lessons? Would you call it that?
No, I am not. I am not a spiritual person. I am not a person who meditates. I do not astro travel.
When you were when you're out of your body, what would you call that? When you're out of your body, what physical or non-physical form were you involved in?
I looked. I had two hands. I had two arms. I mean, I looked at my hand and I could see my hand, and I couldn't see through my hand like I was in a ghost state or nothing like that. I mean, I looked very physical, and I could feel softness, and I did not feel hot or cold. I felt perfectly comfortable. I didn't need to pee, or I didn't feel hunger. I felt perfectly good. I mean, I felt good, and I looked at the people I talked to, the aliens that I talked to, and I could see their characteristics, and one of them was holding hand. This leopard woman was holding hands with me, and I looked, and her hand felt weird. And at one point, I remembered, if this is a dream, I want to look, this is a dream. They said, look, see if you won't have detail if it's a dream. So I looked at her hand, and I could see that she had pads on her hand, like a cat has on its foot, even in between her digits. But she had 4 fingers and a thumb, just like mine. But between the digits of her fingers, there was small pads, like on a cat's foot. Very odd.
Could you see your physical body in the bed?
Yes, I see. My body was still laying in the bed, and actually, when they pulled me out of it, I was like buried in my bed up to my knees, and I kind of freaked out because I looked down and I seen the bed, and I didn't see the bottom of my legs, and I kind of freaked out, like, oh my God, my legs are gone, the bottom of my legs are gone, and they waded me out of the bed like wading out of a pond of water. I said, you're all right, And then they showed me that we can move through physical matter here. They started apologizing for disrupting my rest and all this stuff. And they just needed to have a conversation. And the gist of the conversation was how to tell the people of our world about that the people of their world have been watching us and want to meet us, and how to go about doing that.
What name? Do they go by a name? Do they call themselves something?
No, they never. Not at any point did they ever tell me this one's name is whatever, and they didn't tell me the name of the worlds. They didn't use names. One of them was a genealogist that was with her. There was 2 different species of aliens. They weren't the same species of aliens. They certainly weren't gray aliens. There was one that was tall, and she had like blue skin, real short black hair. She had this ruby thing glued to her right cheek. She had like a diamond glued to the center of her forehead, and she had a tattoo on her left cheek. And the other one looked like you could see she had big hair, and you could see the tips of her cat ears sticking through it, and she looked like a woman. 2 legs, 2 arms, just like a woman, not a good-looking woman. And then when you look at her face, her eyes are human, but then her nose turns into a cat's nose. And she even had whiskers on her upper lips like a cat. So the tip of her mouth turned into like a cat's mouth. They talked with her. They talked English with their mouths. And because of the one that had the cat's mouth, she had a hard time making certain syllables when she spoke. And it was almost comical trying to watch her pronounce certain words. But when she had trouble making a word, she was smart enough that she would use a different word instead of repeating it, like people with a speech impediment do.
When your wife came in the room, she could see you talking or experience this with you, or did she just see you sleeping in bed?
No, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning when this all happened, so the sun was shining in around the windows. She came walking through the bedroom on her way to the bathroom, and when she came back from the bathroom, she stopped and she looked at us, and it freaked one of the ET out. And she goes, she said to the other ETs, can't she see us? Because she stopped and she looked our direction, but what she was looking at was my sleeping body there in bed.
But your wife couldn't see the ETs, right? Your wife could not see the ETs.
No, they said this is where we've been watching you from. Said she cannot see or hear us. Is what she said. She cannot see or hear us, and this is where we've been observing your world.
This is interesting. So the 2 ETs were female, correct?
Both of them, yes.
Interesting. And they were 2 different types.
There were 2 different species. One was like a leopard woman, and I mean, at one point, the story it's a pretty lengthy story, but anyway, she had a big tail, and then she had stripes on her body, and I drew some sketches of what she looked like, and I drew some, and the tall blue one, I actually got a picture of that one in a UFO encounter in Coleman. The disc approached me, and I went into hiding, and from my hiding spot, I leaned around this oil field separator, and I took a picture of the craft with the compartment underneath it lit up on the inside, and this is the same ET that is standing in the opening. And I took the picture like back in 2011, and I actually met her in August of 2017. So this is the same one, the tall blue one. And I think she's probably the pilot of the craft.
Wow. And that is fascinating. I've never heard a story quite like this. But then I've also known I've had quite a few encounters myself with different types, but not like that. We tend to give them names like the Greys and the Tans and things like this, the reptilians, but that's not what they call themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I know the cat woman. What do they call them? I've heard some. What do they call the cat people? It's gosh, I can't think of it right offhand. But they have a term they use for the cat people. But she never said that this is what they're called, and they never use names when they were speaking to one another. She called her my associate. She called her a geneticist at one point. But, I mean, she never called her a name. I never heard her call each other a name. And she never told me the name of their...
That's the same, I guess, point or fact with the ones we worked with. They never honestly told us their real names or where they really were from. So I haven't written the reality book yet because it sounds wacko, to be honest, Ronnie, because you mentioned these things that we're not used to hearing. We may have seen pictures in the ancient history. I've seen those cat people, but I didn't believe it. But then I heard about the tombs and how they used to do people and stuff. So it is a way to go and look in history, but at the same time, it's so hard to believe it. That's why it's so hard for me to write a book. But when I hear the same thing happening in the conversations, like Dr. Bruce said, in today's people bringing it up, it's easier for us, but we've got to figure out how to not be biased and automatically say, oh, BS, because even for me, and I've had experience in and out of uniform, but it's hard for me to hear this, and I'm recording it. I'm paying to do this stuff, so the live recording, folks, but that's why I've got this club with Jan Aldrich, Dr. Bruce Maccabee, Tommy Hawksblood, and now Ronnie Dawson. We're all in a club to do this, and we've just hit the hour mark, so this is a good time to pitch it. So if you guys want to do this again and you guys don't mind, we'll try to keep it to maybe Jan, Bruce. Tommy and I can run the boards, meaning we can help produce shows for you guys. But when we invite somebody like Jan that's been doing this for quite a few hours on his own books, and Wednesday and he agreed to talk to Ronnie Dawson tonight, Friday, and Ronnie agreed. We weren't sure they were going to show up, so I asked Dr. Bruce to show up and sort of help run it, and then Tommy just happened to call today, and he's going to start doing Wednesday again for a spiritual topic. But Tommy is also involved in this. Whoops. All right, I'm going to go back on mute. But Tommy, you want to put in about 2 or 3 minutes here, and we'll get back to Jan. But Jan, what we do is we usually rotate a panel, and Tommy can run it. He's used to timing the old way, but we would let each person talk for about 5 minutes so we don't talk over each other. But Dr. Bruce, this is his first show for the ACO Club, and Jan, I'd already invited you and Ronnie from Tuesday's show. I was going to say, and I cut myself off, that I was hoping we could learn to work together with the ancient and the history that Jan does, and Bruce is going to be speaking, so he goes to the events that me and Jan's done a few, and he's done some meetings. but he's also in these closed groups where they don't allow just anybody to come. So I'm trying to create something in between. And Tommy and me for 8 years is to bring the different associations, clubs, groups together to meet each other. So, Ronnie, it's really hard to understand, but my brain's really trying to understand, but totally get that if you put it in a book and you're willing to say, this happened to me, and you author it. I've also got an author's club, so we can pull your book in here. But I don't know how we're going to do all this, Jan and Bruce, but you guys have been in it for years, so I'm hoping you guys will orchestrate with the new people. And,
well,
Dr. Bruce, bring Tommy in. I'm going to mute, but bring Tommy in for a minute.
TJ, I just want to say something. This is in reference to Jan. Being the historian, he is familiar with all of the tens of thousands of reports. He may not have read every single one of them or remember them. But my question to him would be, how many different types of ETs have those reports indicated? In other words, we hear from Linda Moulton Howe about how in government documents they've reported as many as 75 different types of ETs, and but there are others who say that there are thousands of different types that are visiting Earth, and yet where is the evidence for all of this? So I'm just curious as to whether or not Jan can fill us in on what he knows.
Okay. Listen, the evidence is kind of ephemeral. We don't have any pictures of ETs that stand up. We've got some traces, and Ted Phillips took a few footprints, I think, castings, but it's hard to say. There appears to be small entities, say about 3 feet, 3 feet 5, 4 feet, somewhere in that area, and they appear to have different colorations and possibly some different physical characteristics that are human-like but not human. And then, of course, about 1980, everybody started to graze, and actually, from the Strebert stuff, started pushing that backwards into the earlier histories, and then there's always giants and appears to be robots, and but they're hard to characterize, and it's really, in a lot of cases, it's hard to take them seriously because they seem like caricatures instead of regular entities that can walk around like Earth people or animals. I mean, they just seem to have a lot of unusual characteristics. They don't seem to people walking. It seems like they there's a flow, but these things seem to be jerky, and there's all kinds of things like that reported. It's hard to characterize all of them. I know there was a lot in France, and Amy Michel had problems with what the difference between a lot of these supposed entities, and they just seem to be glimpsed for a very short time. So, and then they had the Venezuelan stuff at the contemporary with the French wave in '54. That these things were bellicose and belligerent, beating people up and things, and they seemed to be almost naked when they were doing this. And then there's others that are enclosed in some kind of almost spacesuit. So It's hard to tell. And then there seems to be rather unusual caricatures of robots that it's stuff you would see in early 50s science fiction movies. So and then giant entities, bigger ones, 10 feet tall. So I don't think there's any real good characterization of this.
Yeah, everybody seems to have. I mean, there are a lot of different reports of different types of entities. Are you familiar with Riley Martin? Have you ever heard of that name?
No, I don't believe I have.
He wrote a book called The Coming of Tan, The Coming of Tan, and it's about this group of ETs that he met with and lived with off planet in their huge spaceship, which was the size of a moon of Saturn. And there were two types of ETs in there. And when I heard Ronnie talking about the leopard woman, I said, oh my, yes, he ran into this leopard woman on board that spaceship or base. And he drew pictures of them. And this is rather interesting because he was a very good artist, and he depicted the two basic types that he saw, and one of them was this reptilian type called the Tarxicians, and they fly angular ship and boomerang-shaped ships, which we have been seeing here on Earth. And I rarely hear anybody talking about his book, which came out in the mid-'90s, and yet it is incredibly filled with details of what he had actually experienced. And it was very different from the Greys, very different from what we typically hear from abductees and experiencers.
Yeah, let me tell Ronnie, if you can come back on, you dropped off. I don't know if you did intentionally or hurt your feelings. So I sure wasn't trying to, because I hope you know me well enough to know I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me too. So hopefully, Ronnie, you can call back in. I hope you just got knocked off or you're changing from your phone or your thing. But I sure hope I didn't have hurt your feelings. I sure wasn't trying to. It's so hard for people to have experiences and know how wacky it sounds and be willing to come on and talk on a show. But like I said, Ronnie, you wrote a book, and it's, I guess it's rough. I don't even know if it was 10 years old or not. But, he's out there, and that's what we want. So I apologize, Ronnie, if I hurt your feelings. I hope you come on and say I didn't, that you just lost contact or dropped off. Because it was just showing ones, and I can't see, so I know he dropped off, so hopefully he'll come back on. But Dr. Bruce, he's not here, so Tommy, you want to talk for a minute real quick with Jan and Bruce about how you can help some of these new people or not? Because I hope I didn't hurt Bruce's feelings, and I've lost him in our club. But he's a paying member, it's just $1 for a month. But, he's helped on the radio show, and it's hard for people to come on. So I'll try to refrain from making catty remarks in the future about it's hard to believe. I didn't say I didn't believe it. I just said it's hard to hear, because of the caricatures. I think Jan has learned over the years. Oh, good. Hold on just a minute. Ronnie, did I hurt your feelings?
No, I got dumped, I guess, on the internet.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay, well, good, because I thought, oh, my God, how am I going to help all these different clubs and associations if I say some cat remark? Because I'm supposed to be the producer and the webmaster and the developer and, club host. And I was like, oh, my God, I did exactly what I don't want to do, and I can't do this if I'm hurting people's feelings, So I apologize, but Tommy will help you some more in the future too, because these guys are collegiates and been doing this like forever. But I'm sort of hoping to bring in new people and somehow get everybody to play good in the sandbox together, if you know what I mean. So thank you. All right, well, I'm going to mute Ronnie, but you got to understand, like you said, you're not spiritual. You're not trying to make no money. You do your job, and I know that you and I have done a show before, but I'm just saying that for people to listen to this show, it's so hard because I've had interdimensional things happen in uniform and out of uniform and at night when I'm sleeping, and I'm trying to figure out how much of us is in our mind and how much is in the essence, like you said, because I, too, am doing neuroscience. I'm really studying consciousness and how we work in and out of body because I've had 3 near-death experiences or I've died. So there's a whole nother level of this, and I hope to bring it all full circle. It's going to take a lot more club hours than just tonight for everybody to meet each other, but at least we're getting started. So I apologize, Ronnie, but I'm gonna mute now. But all these are authors, folks. I have to admit, I'm a publisher. I have TJ Morris Publishing, and I do Lulu and Amazon. But all of these guys are in my life because they all are an author. If you want to know what have they got in common, well, we're all authors. So with that said, and Tommy can tell you, you know, we'll get your books out there, but I build the pictures and the websites. But I'm going to get off here and go back on mute. Okay, I'm so glad, Ronnie, that I didn't bump you, and I thought you hung up on me. All right, so if that happens, folks, try to get back on.
Yeah, very rural. Yeah, it's so rural.
Very rural.
Internet, it's something.
I thought.
Can't keep getting
Dr. Bruce and Jan were going to fire me because I'm like, God, TJ, you can't be running people out of our club, man. All right, I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, Tommy, are you going to jump in here and fill us in with more of your opinions? I guess he's off. I wonder if he's still connected now.
No, can you hear me? You can't hear me? Hello?
I can now. I can now.
Oh, all right. Okay. So, yeah, I've been involved with this since I was 6 years old. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. But what happened, I mean, I was pulled into it at 6 in the hospital. My brother was having his tonsils out, and so was I. And the story starts in my life when a ship was coming to abduct my brother. And I kind of went to the window where the ship was and put my hands on the window, and then the ship shot right back out into space. So that's how it started. But then from then on, I kind of was being pulled into a lot of different directions at the same time, including working with a deity, working with different spirits and things like that. But by the time I was 14, I was doing Ghostbusting in New York City. I was doing hypnosis at 15. So I got involved with. I was one of the first people, and I probably was the first person in the United States to actually start doing past life regression when I was really young. I tried to figure out a word about it, and I came up with that. I know a woman came out and said she created it about 10 years later, but I didn't go public with it. I was doing people that I know and working that way. I never did anything I did to make money. I wrote my first book just to bring truth out. My second book was about truth, my truth, and then my third book was about truth. I use the word truth more than anything because I feel I have to put the truth out there. What I perceive, what I experience, and what I know as fact for myself. Sure, some people will not agree. I mean, the first alien being that I saw, I was 12, and I hate to admit it, James Gillen of the East City Ranch, his first alien that he saw is very similar because he talked about a person, kind of human body form with a cat's head, and that's the first thing I ever saw as well. So, I mean, his experiences with that was a little different than mine. I mean, I actually had a friend with me, and we both saw it. We were chasing it with a bat. We thought we were, and it went right through the door, and it went up in a saddle in a spaceship. So that's how it starts for me. I mean, but when I dealt with people, I got more involved with this and being pulled into a lot of different directions. I work with probably 2,000 people that were abducted, girls mostly, that lost their children and things like that. So I never needed truth, and I didn't have to search for it, and I wasn't out trying to promote it. I was just trying to help the people that I know that experienced it. And with the way it is today, everybody's allowed to come out and say it. They won't be put in the nut house right away, even though they will be put in the nut house if they have any real important information. I'll say one name, and people really need to search this out, and if they really care, he's in the nut house in Long Island. He was arrested due to the idea they said he had uranium and he was going to kill people. But he had the most incredible video I ever saw of a ship crash and with the aliens around it. So it's like when you have real truth, they kind of try to take it away. I could say I lost 6 direct friends of mine from childhood to now, rather than over the past 25 years, due to the UFO world. Now, when people come out and say they have experiences, everybody's having them. How really important to the world are they? Some experiences are important to the individual. So when we talk about these aliens that come to us, what are they really teaching us? What can we bring to the world? What will help us with that information? I mean, I can go into the big famous name people and what they say. I said, we need to bring something together that's going to help us, because when they do come, which race are we going to work with? I mean, I'm going to just say this real fast because I don't want to take up too much time. In the past couple of days, one of the most people friendship I made in a while was directly talking with me live when they were giving me pictures of a ship over the house, and then they showed me pictures of the alien that was coming around the house. So I saw a race I never saw before, but I saw it directly. So, and it was being videotaped, so it's not like it was somebody's dream, somebody's bad experience. That video can't come out for a while. When it does, it'll open more people's eyes, because the Hopi people talked about a certain race, which it was. And the Hopi people are the oldest people in the United States that have been here forever, have never been brought here. So when you talk about aliens, what are aliens? I mean, if they look the same, are they aliens or are they not? Like the Pleiadians are us from the future. They look like us. I mean, most races do not look anything even close to us, eat like us, or dress like us. So I'm going to give it back, but we need to put this together as far as what can really help us. I'm more concerned about helping the world. I mean, sure, we've got problems with Trump and the elections and things like that, but just what's going on around that, what our government's allowing to happen. And this is the last thing I'll say. The U.S. government, specifically the Navy, came out and just said a couple of days ago they will not release any information pertaining to UFOs and secret stuff going on, because it would be destructive to the United States. So that's their viewpoint on disclosure about aliens. So with that, I'll give it back to DJ and Bruce. Sorry.
Yes. Well, thank you, Tommy, for bringing us up to date on what your involvement in it is, and I, on the other hand, have experienced some things. You have experienced some of these things, Tommy, with me out in the Walker River Valley, and I came out with a book recently last year called Unconventional Aerial Phenomena in the Hudson and Walker River Valley of New York, in which I document at least 137 close encounters. Now, I believe Jan was saying that close encounters have sort of dropped off in this millennium, and most of my close encounters were occurring in the 1990s. So that sort of fits in with his idea, because they tapered off and stopped by 2003. And I've documented most of the things that I have encountered with photographs and video and pictures that are in my book. And for anybody who's interested in seeing what is going on there in that part of the world. But what is different is that most of the craft that I witnessed and photographed are angular craft in the shape of triangles or diamond shapes, and some of them are even in the shape of conventional aircraft, but they can fold up wings and stabilizers and appear to be a cigar shape type of craft. And they differ from what we see in many other parts of the country and the world in the sense that they have their underground bases right there in the valley, and most people don't even realize it, that these ships are coming out of the ground and going into the ground, into their underground bases with impunity. And the military is very interested in them, but there's also a question of how much cooperation there is between people in the military and these non-humans that live underground. And that is something that I hope to find out more about. But there's no question that there seems to be some connection. and the question of how many of these sightings that we see are what we call ARVs versus ETVs. ETV is extraterrestrial vehicle. ARV is alien reproduction vehicle. And we actually had performances authorized by the Pentagon for Skunk Works to give us a demonstration of the TR-3B, their triangular anti-gravity craft. And that video is online on my BUFOD website, and I'm going to be showing it at the UFO Mega Convention in Laughlin this next month. But most people wouldn't expect the government to reveal something of that magnitude before cameras, and yet that seems to be part of the way the disclosure is happening in drips and drabs over time. What do you think, Tommy?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think.
And Jan, have you? I mean, a lot of these triangular craft that we are seeing, the increase in numbers, many people now begin to think that they are our own military hardware. And so if what we witnessed and recorded on film is for real, is a military craft, then our military has a lot more technology than the public is aware of. And that could be one major reason why the military will not disclose, because that would put the United States into great jeopardy with our enemies around the world.
John, I'll let you go. I just want to say one thing real fast. I'm in Hawaii. I'm on the Big Island. I was in town at the bank on the far end of, it's called Hilo, the town, and on the side of that's the mountain. So I was going to a bank that was closed down. I didn't know it was closed down, so I'm walking out of the bank. Around the side, this giant black triangle came out at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. It came right out of the mountain. It was super large. I would say it was like a 747, but it was a black triangle. The only thing that was so bad, which I couldn't understand, it was the loudest thing I ever heard. It was blowing my eardrums out. And when I reached for my I had two different cameras on me, and I grabbed one of them. It was blank, and the other one was blank. But within 5 seconds, it was clearly gone. I mean, it was directly over my head, maybe 100 feet when it was above my head. But when I looked, it was gone out into space within like 4 to 5 seconds. So the technology of that ship was, and I'm sure it was, government, Hawaii government, but how fast it disappeared was amazing. But what I found out, most of the people in town didn't hear it. I mean, I was directly under it. But yeah, I asked people in town, did you hear that? Did you hear what? Hear what? Hear what? I mean, Hilo's a really busy town, noisy and everything, but the noise almost blew my eardrums out. And like we know most of the things that we see and hear don't have any noise. But
right.
I just wanted to throw that in.
Well, that's good because I've when I was at NIDS, I had a report of a black triangle that was seen taking off from a naval base near San Diego, and it's as it took off, it had to stop immediately to allow MD-10 commercial airliner to pass it as on its way to landing at the San Diego airport, and then the witnesses saw it. Once the aircraft had passed, that triangle just took off like a bat out of hell, and clearly was coming from a military airfield. So we have this technology, and that is one of the reasons I think that the military cannot disclose too much. Otherwise, they're going to expose our own vulnerability to our enemies.
Right. Hey, are you guys familiar with the Wilson leak? Did y'all hear anything on that?
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yes, yeah, about the Space Force or the Solar Warden stuff.
Yeah, it's a part of the government that's like it doesn't have any oversight on spending or anything, and they work just outside the government, where even it's not even listed in top secret. So the government has no right to the information. All they do is fund it, and it's private industry that is doing all the research on the alien technology that they supposedly have. And, I got a good friend that's been up close and personal with those documents and stuff. And it's like, well, that tells you right there that our government is in. There's no telling what we have out there because they've been working on it a long time.
Right.
So,
and
I know,
that going back to the 30s and the Nazis, they were working with it too.
Yeah. So there's no telling what we have, but I can tell you what, that thing that flew over me was made out of it had solid rock on the bottom of it, and it had a city built on the surface. And I can't imagine. And I've taken that footage, and I've got this footage, and somebody that's really talented needs to take this footage and do some stuff with it that I haven't been able to do, because I can guarantee you there's some stuff on here that's 100% completely alien. And I mean, I've got it, and I've had so many people look at the film, but all they do is make sure that it hasn't been manipulated. They're looking to debunk me. They're not looking to clear up the imagery. They're looking to see where I pull this off. And it's like I really need somebody who's willing to believe and talented enough to like take some of this footage and see what all we can find and prove it once and for all is authentic. I know it's authentic because I took it. But there's nothing on this thing that looks like it was ever touched by human hand. And I mean, this is a big craft. This thing was, I guarantee you, it was a mile long, a V-shaped craft. Each half of the V was a half a mile in length, and it was a tight.
Would that have been similar to the Phoenix sighting occurred in 1997? That big V-shaped craft.
It looks very similar because when I could see lights on this thing in different areas of it, and there was a large area of lights that was rotating around my location, and it was getting lower and lower. And when it finally passed over my head, I couldn't believe how big it was because lots of the craft didn't have any lights at all on it, and the lights come from different parts. This was 2011.
2011, and that was in Texas?
Yeah, north central Texas, just about 10 miles outside of Coleman, Texas. And this thing, I got the footage on a flip. It's a flip phone. Is a Motorola AT&T Tundra flip phone is what I caught the video footage of it. And I thought I was taking a picture because I had taken some video earlier, and it was one of the first cameras that came out with the capabilities of video. I mean, we didn't have smartphones back then in 2011. And so when this thing, I caught a video, I pointed my camera at this thing, and I was looking for it in the display screen, and it filled the sky in the location I was at. And to my horror, when I looked at the display screen, all I could see was complete black. And this thing was leaving the area, and I'm going, my God, this is the most amazing thing anybody's probably ever seen, and I've got to catch something on. I've got to catch this thing, So I pointed the eye of the camera at it, and I hit record. And luckily, what I caught was the left half of I caught the left V on the craft. Probably, I just about caught just about all of the left side of the V. And man, this thing is a mile long, and it's got a row of burning flares, like there's some kind of refinery process going on. It's got these buildings built on the surface of it. They had these blue glowing power lines stretched across the surface. And when I zoomed in on that thing and started looking at it, man, there's like I didn't even see it at first because I was looking for alien architecture and machinery and stuff like that. And then these other people said, man, I see this huge creature on the surface of that thing. And I'm going, nah, there's no way it could be a creature of any kind on this thing. And when I started looking, I saw it too. There's a huge creature on this thing. And one of the creatures, it looks like it's 40 feet tall. It looks like an insectoid. It's towering above the buildings on the craft. When you start telling people that, they just shut out. They don't even want to believe you. But I've got the footage of it. And on one of the arms on the thing is casting a shadow on its body, and it's right in line with where the light source is. So you can see the light source. You can see the thing's arm. You can see the shadow that's being cast on the thing's body. And I've got a good picture. I guarantee you, I got a good picture. Now it's not Paramount picture quality, but it's clear enough you can see what the hell it is, and I guarantee you it's big enough that you can't explain it. And I showed it to zoologists, and they said, well, where'd you get this from? And I said, well, you ain't gonna believe this, but it's on the surface of a UFO. And they didn't want to talk to me anymore after that. At first they were going, yeah. They said, I know every creature on the planet, and I've never seen, because this thing, it looks like a praying mantis, but the arms come out of the back instead of out of the front. And he goes, yeah, that's, it looks like a praying mantis, but it's got arms that come out of its back. He said, I've never seen anything like this. Where did you get it? And I said, well, and once I told him where I got it, he didn't want to talk to me anymore after that. And that's the way they are, sadly.
Yeah, this subject is one way to end a conversation. So
yeah.
For those who don't want to believe in what we are seeing.
But I've got some footage of some ETs, and I mean I've got some pretty good footage of some ETs, and like I said, there's nobody who really wants to see it. There's nobody who really wants to research it. I'm surprised. You think people would be knocking at my door, bugging me for it? And I've been giving it freely to anyone who wants to research it. You can look at
this is the psychological problem of humans, I believe. It's almost as if it's been genetically wired in our brains to not want to see the truth about non-human beings and creatures. That this really scares us. Look at how Hollywood plays on human fears with monsters and ghosts. I mean, that should be a pretty good indicator that we don't want to know the truth.
Yeah, and the guy in Brazil that was the abductee in Brazil that was supposedly killed and drained, all the blood drained out of him and stuff. It's a pretty famous case. A Brazilian man that was killed supposedly by an ET and dropped. Anyway, this big creature has a bite radius that would be consistent with the wounds on that guy, which is kind of scary to think of. You take a 40-foot insectoid, he would suck the blood right out of a human. And I guarantee you, and you can see there's a big hole in the guy's chest cavity, and I guarantee you it looks consistent with the size and the shape of the mouth of this thing that I captured on top of the UFO. Pretty scary stuff.
Yes, very. I'd love to see that image.
And I have another guy over here that, I've talked to TTSA, and they're looking for alien metamaterial. Well, I come across a guy down here, down in Santa Ana, and this guy has a piece. He has this metal sphere. You've heard of the Bet sphere?
Yeah.
This thing is larger. It's larger than the Bet sphere. It has a sleeve. It has a circular sleeve that seems like it goes plumb through it. And at first I was kind of skeptical of it, and I went down there, and I did a bunch of like testing on this thing, and we weighed it and we measured it, and I put this thing down on the floor, and my kid was sitting there playing with it. And then my kid walked away and left it. This thing rolled for 4 minutes on the floor. And then finally I was having a conversation with the guys, and I said, hey, one of you guys might want to grab a camera. I said, because that sphere has been rolling way too long. It's been rolling for 4 minutes. And we recorded it another 3 minutes. So this thing, they set it on the floor and it rolled for 7 minutes, and we recorded the last 3. And then I've got it. You can go to the Ronnie Dawson YouTube channel and you can see the sphere. You can see it rolling and stuff like that. I posted several videos on there of the sphere that we're looking at. And the story behind the sphere is that there was a ranch out near Taos, New Mexico, and this rancher, a UFO came over his house, scared them to death, and they boarded the doors up, afraid they were going to get taken. And nothing happened. They never got invaded or anything like that they know of. And anyway, the UFO left. The next morning, when they had the courage to go outside, there was 12 of these metal balls laying in their front lawn. And one of those balls was given to this guy. This is the area UFO guy, the guy that everybody talked to when they seen a UFO. He was called out, and this guy actually gave him one of the spheres, and he still has it today. And supposedly this sphere came off a UFO. God only knows what's in it, and it acts a whole lot like the Bet sphere.
Right. I have a question for you, Ronnie. Have you
Dr.
ever,
Bruce, I think.
Yes.
Oh,
TJ.
Dr. Bruce, I'm sorry. I'll go back on mute. I think Hugh Charleston showed up here from Virginia. There's an 804 number on here, but I turned him on, so. If you want to go ahead and ask that question. But is that you, Hugh? I just need to make sure.
Yes, I would love to connect with Dr. Cornett related to the Hudson Valley.
Okay. Well,
Very
you're
good.
on, but let him ask the question, and he'll get with you, Hugh. And Jan, I want Jan, but Hugh's been with us from the beginning, too. I'm going to go back on mute.
Ronnie, have you ever been approached by what would be termed a man in black?
I never have been personally approached by a man in black, but I had a guy contact me through the internet that claimed, and he seemed like a man in black. And this guy, he was talking like, man, he was telling me about, he knows where my craft came from, and he told me where it came from. He told me how many light years it was away. And I was taking notes, and I researched everything the guy said, and everything the guy said was true. And the guy said he was an alien hybrid working for the government out of a UFO that's like a secret space program. And he told me it's in a warehouse, and if you walked in the warehouse, you would never be able to see it. This guy told me this several years ago. And here just recently, I've heard again that they have the technology that some of these UFOs, if you walk into the warehouse, you wouldn't see it. It don't even materialize until you throw the switch. And this guy told me this several years ago. And then, okay, now get this. I was talking to this guy for several weeks, man. He was very smart. He was, way too smart. And he was even saying, he said, I could come down and give you a ride. And I said, you could do that? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I can find you. He said, don't worry. I can come down and give you a ride. And I was sharing my conversation with some of my friends. And then the next time I talked to the guy, he was very angry. He said, I know you've been sharing our conversation. And he goes, I'm very upset that you've done this. He said, I thought we were buddies. And, he said, I can't have anybody else knowing the nature of our conversation. He said, he said, I had to delete everything you had, and he said, I deleted off your friend's computers too. And I'm going, well, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean anything by it. He goes, I understand. He said, that's just part of being human. And anyway, so after I got to talk to him, I called my friends that I had sent the stuff to. I said, you still got that? And he did. He deleted it off my computer. I called all my friends. And I said, you still got that? And they looked on their computer, and they have not deleted it, and it's gone off all their computers. 4 different friends, 4 different computers. He deleted it off all of them.
Yeah,
and this was way before Snowden come out.
Ronnie, they've demonstrated to me how they can access my computer without it even being on. and run it and put things on my computer and take things off. They've demonstrated that.
Yeah,
So,
he told me that
I believe you.
He said I know all your passwords. He said I can get in your computer faster than you can.
Right.
And he said I can do
they
it
don't
from
use
space.
passwords. Right.
Yeah. He said I can do it from outer space. He said the people on the craft,
you know,
he said they're in
That's
a 1,000-year
very
treaty to
scary.
stay away. Yeah.
Okay, TJ, who was calling in and wanting to talk about Hudson Valley?
Hugh Carlson. Yeah, Hugh, introduce yourself to, you said you want to talk to Dr. Bruce, but Jan Aldrich is here. Tommy and I are here, but Tommy and I are being real quiet tonight, so Jan and Bruce can talk, and Ronnie. But go ahead, Hugh. Hugh, and go ahead.
Well, if you can give him my number too, I'd love to speak with him off air. But I had a first-hand experience back in the early '80s with the Hudson Valley UFO sightings. The triangular type ship came right over the top of me when I was coming into work at Union Carbide's World Headquarters, and I had other paranormal experiences during that time frame. And there's a big website, Teresa's aware of it, and I wanted to ask you if you spent much time around Brewster, New York, if you knew Phil and Brogno, because I went when they had the meeting at the Henry Wells School for the people that saw the UFO, and I never came forward because I didn't want to jeopardize my job back then. But again, there's a lot of synchronicities I have. That's a whole big area that ties into this, and I did have a sort of interdimensional paranormal experience with what I believe was a gargoyle.
Hugh, what is your phone number?
It's area code 804-798-1139. And are you at all familiar with Leslie Mitchell Clark? She's a hypnotherapist who's up in Toronto and also has an office in New York, and her husband also experienced it, and she has I think it's a blog talk show. I don't know if it's still on, called Contact, but she's very sophisticated in these things and did go to Area 51 herself.
Interesting. Very good. And when was this sighting that you had of the triangle?
It was probably 1983 or 84, but let me just give you 3 words so you can look over this big website. It'll bring you right to it, and you'll see a lot of interesting things on the different pages.
Okay.
Just put my last name, Traulson, T like Tom, R-A-U-L, S like Sam, E like Edward, N like Nancy, the second word and, A-N-D, and the third word Trump, T-R-U-M-P. That will bring you directly to a page on a big website, rootingoutcorruption.weebly.com. On the page that says Media Review, you'll see some interesting information, and toward the bottom of the page is even an archive radio program where I came on and spoke with Stanton Friedman last December, December 2018, before he passed, and asked him about one of the gentlemen that I mentioned on that page, Harry Rositsky, who was high-level CIA. I actually spoke with him after reading his book, The KGB, The Eyes of Russia. Are you at all familiar with Harry Rositsky? He was supposedly known as the Falcon, the head of the aviary that were involved with UFOs?
I've heard the name.
Okay.
But I've never really connected with him to know, how he could inform me. But I'll give you a call, and your last name is spelled how?
T like Tom, then R-A-U-L, S like Sam, E like Edward, N like Nancy. And one last thing, a lot of this is interdimensionally ships too.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so this was sighting that you had was in what county of New York?
No, I was living in Brewster, New York, in Putnam County.
Okay.
and the encounter was at Danbury, Connecticut, at Union Carbide's world headquarters.
Okay, I know where you are. I passed through that area many times.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of things. They have the Satan caves in Brewster and the Jesus tree. There's all kinds of paranormal things that were happening back in those when I was there.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you. And I'll get that website from you over the phone.
Yeah, I'm up till midnight. I'm in Virginia. Are you in Texas, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have synchronicities related to Texas too. When you get onto the site, you'll see my last name also has global recognition. And back in the early 80s, when all this was happening, I was written up in a front page Wall Street Journal article, which triggered an investigation, eventually led to the resignation of Jim Wright from Speaker of the House in shame, who was from Fort Worth, Texas. That's where my father's company is currently headquartered.
Oh, very good. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for calling in.
Well, I'll
and sharing
continue
this
listening, and thank you so much, TJ, for connecting me.
Oh, but have you know of my book?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry?
Hugh, let him tell you his book before you go. We only got 10 minutes left, but everybody
Yeah,
tell
sure.
your book because we only got 10 minutes left, and Project 1947 too. But go ahead, Bruce. Tell him the name of your book.
Go to Amazon.com and to books and Google Dr. Bruce Cornett. And my book's name is Unconventional Aerial Phenomena in the Hudson and Wallkill River Valley of New York. It's 400 pages of documents and descriptions.
Beautiful. I hope we can add to that, and I'll help promote that too.
Thank you very much, Hugh. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
TJ, how would you like to end this session, this show?
We've got 8 minutes, and everybody is an author, so I'd like to run down the line with Jan first, and we've just mentioned yours, but we'll mention it the last again. So Jan and Tommy and Ronnie, and then you. Okay, and I'll go back on mute because it's easier. So you got it? You got the rundown, Jan, Tommy, Ronnie, and then you again. And that should be 7 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Jan, you're up.
Okay, well, the latest book, of course, is UFOs and Government, and the primary authors are Swords and Powell. I've written one other book called A Preliminary Report on the Wave of 1947. It's out of print. MUFON may still have some copies. I have something called the Ghost Rocket Files. It's a compilation of government documents from 1946, U.S. government documents about the ghost rocket phenomena in Scandinavia. That's scanned and it's available online. You just probably have to do a search. I think it's at AFU, the Swedish outfit that does a lot of scanning and stuff. So, of course, it's real important to mention Lauren Gross and his UFO history project on the Oral History Project, and there's a button there so you can go to Lauren Gross's histories, which are real important for somebody that's interested in the early days. Thank you.
And Tommy, you're up next.
My first book is How to See God. My second book is When Truth is Called Crazy. My third book is Truth Beyond Illusion. And my fourth book, which I feel is the most important, is The True Teachings of Jesus from God Realization. And I'm putting out a field manual on how to see a UFO, which I'm giving away as a PDF file if anybody's interested. So real fast, my email is hawksblood1@AOL.com. Anybody that sends me a link, I'll give them a copy of my first book, second book, or the PDF file of how to see a UFO. Thank you.
Ronnie?
Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, this is Ronnie Dawson. My book is called The Ronnie Dawson UFO Story. It's available on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or you can even get it at Walmart. You can see my videos at the Ronnie Dawson YouTube channel. And it's got the videos of the sphere. And if you want to see some of the UFO pictures and alien pictures that I've captured, you can just go to Google Images and type in Ronnie Dawson UFO, RONNY-DAWSON UFO, and you can see it right there on Google. Most of them will load up for you. So thank you. It's been fun, guys.
Yes, it has. Thank you. DJ?
Yeah, I'm back. You want to mention your book again? It's sort of a long title, isn't it? But it's available on Amazon. But my books are on Amazon. Just look up books by Teresa J. Morris, Morris. That's Teresa, Theresa. And if you'd like to join us, I've formed a club on Patreon, Patreon.com. I've formed patreon.com/join/Teresa J. Morris. And I'm hosting a bunch of different associations that do clubs or groups or oral history. And Jan has agreed to help me with all the UFO Association. And so if you go to the Patreon, you can we figured out a way where we all didn't have to pay so much money, and you can just do one a month or two a month just to help pay the overhead for the archives. And then hopefully, we got 8 years. I'm just going to keep paying for the archives we've got, but we're starting in 2020 to make all these oral archives, and then anybody that participates can have a copy here, and we put them out free everywhere, folks. But I pay for all the majors, Spreaker and Stitcher, and Stitcher, iTunes, where you can get on Apple. Anyway, just look up TJ Morris ET Radio is the key. TJ Morris ET Radio. Okay, Bruce. Now we want to do this next Friday, and you'll be pulling. Will you be here for the club, or are you going to do just once a month, or are we going to do this every Friday, Bruce, Dr. Bruce?
Well, I would say we're coming up to February, and I'll be out of town for several weeks, so I probably should only do it on selected Fridays, okay? You'll have to communicate back to me on which Fridays.
Okay. Well, and then Jan can maybe do a late...
Right, next Friday, I think it will be okay. That will be right before the end of the month, right? So that is fine. But let's see who we can invite to have on our show, all right?
Yeah, we don't have to have so many people, but we've been doing it for so many years, they like to hear what's old and new. So we say we got the ancient wisdom and the new thought teachings, but the oral history of UFO we did tonight. So Friday nights are pretty cool. And Tommy's going to do Wednesday with me, folks, all y'all that like our spiritual Ascension Age stuff, spiritual stuff, and Sunday. And I do Tuesday with Jan Aldrich for UFO Association, Tuesday 3 to 5 my time. That's 4 to 6 Eastern his time. And he's got so many friends in around the world and that are so well famous and all have archives that we're trying to do an oral archive and keep books running, about 10 to 12 chapters or episodes per book. So join Jan Aldrich on Tuesdays 4 to 6 Eastern right here on TJ Morris ET Radio. Tommy Hawk's Blood right here. We haven't established a time, but I do usually 4 to 6 Eastern or 8 to 10 Eastern. So we do a day show and a night show. And then, Ronnie, you're invited next Friday if you'd like. And Jan, of course, I can call you if you want to do next Friday. And then, I don't know, I know we do Tuesdays. So, and Tommy's a permanent fixture with me, but we just have been so busy, and he's been doing YouTube. So catch Tommy and Jan, and anyway, email me if you don't know, or just look up teresajmorris.com. And we've got ACO Club app for the business directory, and we got different clubs that do different things. So all these guys are great, and they all showed up, so that's the main thing, isn't it? They've all got information they'd like to be on oral history and share. Okay, back to you, Dr. Bruce.
Well, the name of my book is Unconventional Aerial Phenomena in the Hudson and Wallkill River Valley of New York, and published in 2019 from Amazon. So just do my last name, Dr. Cornett, at Amazon Books, and you should find me.
Okay. Well, any last words, everybody? Jan Aldrich, any last words? Or if you want to tell them, I know it's project1947.com, but you want to give them your Facebook or however you want people to get in touch with you, Jan.
Well, that's the project1947.com is a lot of the research that's been done, and it's there for free. You don't have to buy any book. You can just go to that place, and it's got a lot of historical UFO material on it.
Okay. Well, we're out of time, so thank you, Dr. Bruce. You did a really good job of co-hosting and emceeing when keeping the panel together. And Jan, this is what I'd like us to start doing sooner or later, or at least, 1 hour. We can do archives or whatever you're doing, and maybe add one of your friends with one of the other clubs, CUFO, or even Greenwood or whatever. But you just gotta let me know. So, folks, we can do this with whatever it is that you're researching and want to do your club with. Just get in touch with any of these people you heard tonight. Let them know you're interested in coming on the show. All right, and Tommy and I'll get back with you too. And Tommy's doing the YouTubes if you want to see your picture on TV, YouTubes. And I'm just not there yet because. I'll get there, though. So love and light, everybody. We will see you, I guess, Tuesday. And I do Thursday on revolution.radio, so don't forget me on the revolution.radio on Thursdays, 4 to 6 Eastern. And we're going to be starting a whole new program and a lot of more affiliates in March. I got to give them a month to get me up, but there's some exciting news coming, getting the word out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hugh Charleston. Thank you, everybody. And Dr. Bruce, if you can, call Hugh, and y'all can exchange information off air.
Yes,
all right?
I will. Thank you.
All right. And Tommy, call me if you want to do a show over the weekend or something. All right, Jan. Talk at you Tuesday, Jan.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. All right. And Ronnie, you know to call in, so call me.